Hey guys, Faria880, and I have had some requests recently, and recently by a subscriber, Hoang Tran, I hope I said that correctly, to do a video on the depth finder or depth gauge that you have inside your Bayliner. My main goal was I wanted to keep the gauge area or the instrumentation area as factory as possible. Now, the bad thing about 175s is you're very limited to your dash area. Like on a Stingray, you actually have an extra area right here for a depth gauge. And I've seen on some of the postings on for sale listings on Bayliner 175s where people will have a standalone depth finder mounted here, which then obstructs some of your gauges and stuff. I've seen them mounted here coming out. Again, this interferes with the walkway of your occupants. Heck, I've even seen people install depth finders here. So my main goal was I wanted it to make it look factory, but I also wanted to keep it out of the way of everything. So what I went with is what's called a digital depth sounder. All it is it's basically a gauge that gives you a digital readout of your actual depth with an alarm. It also matches the gauges as well. So all you have to do is worry about your transducer, which we'll discuss here in a minute, and then wire up your components. So also to some of my subscribers, y'all requested for more boat videos, and to my subscribers, y'all are awesome. I put a Volkswagen video up last night, and the first couple of comments is, hey, we want more boat videos. Will you see my boat? Do you see I'm not sitting in the water? And do you know why? This is why. We have our third addition to our family, so unfortunately I think my boat's going to be sitting in the warehouse for a little while, but we will get out to the water soon. But moving on to the depth finder or depth gauge installation, the next issue that I ran into is transducer. Now, correct me, now again, this is a DIY video, so I'm not a professional marine mechanic or a marine installation person, but you have a transom transducer, you have an end-hole transducer, you have a through-hole transducer, and then you have what's called an angle transducer, which I believe are for sailboats and stuff because they have such an angle on the holes. Now, transom transducers, some say that's about the easiest installation you do. Basically, you can drill 2 holes in the back of your transom, run your wiring up and to the instrumentation area of your boat, and you're done. I don't like transom transducers because I have ran into many boats that have had rotted out transoms. I don't like drilling holes through my transoms. I absolutely hate that. It drives me nuts. I mean, you're drilling a hole through your boat. Yes, you can put, 5200 gunk or whatever that marine sealant is, and that's fine. And I know that's worked for many people, but my preference, again, I've got a pristine condition boat. To me, it's brand new, even though it's a 2006. I don't want to be putting holes that I don't need to be putting in this boat. The next option is the end-hole transducer. Now, the end-hole transducer, you had to mount a box into your hole, fill it up with mineral oils or some sort of liquid or something that would keep the transducer submerged, allowing a perfect signal to be transferred into the water and so forth and so on. I wasn't going to do that. That just sounded like too much trouble. Through-hole transducer, if I'm not drilling holes through my transom, I'm sure to heck not drilling holes through the bottom of my boat. The next option was, and I read about this a lot, is an end-hole transducer that is glued to the bottom of the boat. Now, this is kind of cool. Every boat's different. Every boat is built differently. The good thing about a Bayliner 170, the bad thing about a 175 Bayliner to a lot of people is it's a basic bare boat. There's not much to it. The good thing about it is there's not much material in the bottom of the boat. There is. It's a strong boat. It's well built. But it's not like some boats where you've got like a 2-inch thick boat, hull and all that mess for that signal to be shot through. So I attempted to do the end-hole transducer glued to the hull. So what I did was I went on to eBay and I bought the Faria, to match my gauges, digital depth sounder gauge with the end-hole transducer. And I went out to my local auto parts store and I bought some of the plastic epoxy. I mixed this up. I mounted the transducer right there in the engine compartment with plastic epoxy. What was really cool about it is the transducer had just a little bit of an angle on the head area, so it matched perfectly with the angle area of my hole. And then I just ran the wiring up the side of the rail here, and I'm going to show that as well while I'm talking. And so the transducer was mounted, wiring was mounted all the way to the instrumentation area. Now it was time to make a hole for the gauge. Easier said than done. What I learned on this is fiberglass is messy as can be. Good gracious. I went out to my local hardware store and I bought one of those large drill bits that you can put doors handles through and stuff. And I got one the exact size of the diameter of my gauge. I taped up around that area, thank goodness. Now, one of the questions is going to be, well, where did you choose to do it? As you could see in my, when I started this video, I chose to do it to the left of my steering wheel. Unfortunately, you're very limited on where you can put stuff on a Bayliner 175. If I had to do it all over again, see, this is the problem that I ran into. You're driving along, blah, 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 you look, it's kind of hard to see the reading on your depth gauge. But there's no area on the gauges to put a spare digital gauge. One of the options that I was thinking about doing was putting the gauge here, but unfortunately, you don't have a nice flat surface. Putting it here, all you're going to do is create an issue as well with trying to see around it. I've seen some people that have actually drilled a hole here. That's not practical, and I didn't want to remove this sticker. Again, I was trying to keep a factory look, but in the end, this is where I chose to mount the gauge. So, drilled the hole, and my boat turned white. The inside of the boat turned white. With a small amount of fiberglass that I drilled through, in the gel coat, it just made a huge mess. Nothing that a vacuum can't suck up or anything. And then all I did was, where the wire that I ran up to my instrumentation area for the transducer, plugged it into the back of the gauge, and then ran my positive and negative. There's a ground block right behind the gauges, and I'm going to try to show that now while I'm talking. And also there's an area for you to add additional accessories. I think I tapped into one of my 12-volt power points behind the gauge, and that's it. So basically what happens is, when you turn the key on, it powers up everything with your gauges and also to your engine accessories and stuff, and it also turns on the depth gauge automatically. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Faria digital depth sounder gauge. But on the back, basically you have this area right here where your transducer plugs into. This area right here is where your alarm area sounds out. And I can tell you, this is loud. This is a very loud alarm. And then you have your positive and negative, which I use crimp connectors on. Of course, you have your mounting points right here for your little mounting frame when it does go into the dash. But pretty cool little gauge, and it does light up red at nighttime, so you can easily see it at night. So that is how I ended up installing my depth sounder inside my Bayliner 175. Believe it or not, it took me about 2 months of just doing research back and forth to see what was the best option for me. Everybody's going to be different. People may want a fish finder. Another thing too is the benefit of mounting the transducer to the transom is you can also have on your depth finder, not on the depth gauge, but on an actual depth finder, is the water temperature readout, and some of them have 3D. There's so many options that you can do. The depth sounder gauge was the best solution for me, and I'm looking on Bayliner right now to add the optional digital depth indicator is a $307 option. I ended up buying my kit off of eBay for $110. Prices vary. I think you can go to Walmart and buy it for $138. And it comes in the kit and stuff. You can order it online, and you can also, it has a little drop down menu of the choice of what you want to do, what transducer you want, and so forth. But overall, it took about an hour to do the installation. If I had to do it all over again, it'd probably take half that time. I think that does it, guys. Thanks again for watching my videos. I am sorry. I know y'all want more videos, and I am trying my best with our new additions. So bear with me. I'm going to kind of do a couple of car reviews. The Honda Pilot review has just exploded. It's like at 5,000 views in a week and a half. That rocks. So click subscribe or like around here, and we will see you hopefully really soon.